Hello and welcome to another week of What's for Dinner at my house. I'm Rachel and today is Sunday. We're just getting a new week started. I have been busy today with Christmas decorations. So dinner kind of got away from me and we're just going to make some hamburgers. And all I did was season them with salt, pepper, and garlic powder on each side. Very, very easy. And nobody ever has a problem with burger night at my house. It's just one of our favorites. And I'm just going to open up this package of tater tots and get those in the oven to go along with it, with our burgers. I have those tots in the oven now. I'm just going to kind of pick up this burger and see if it's ready to flip, and it's not, so we're just going to leave it alone and come back. Hey there, I'm getting dinner ready. I have these dividers that I ordered for my Crockpot, so that is what I'm using today to separate my meat and my vegetables. Honestly, I don't need to separate them, but I just wanted to use these, so that's how I am making this recipe. And on the one side, I'm just putting some store-bought stew meat, and we're going to make some garlicky steak bites. On the other side, I'm just going to add my little red potatoes. Next, I have a bunch of garlic that I chopped up, and I'm going to split it up between each side. Get some in there with the potatoes as well. I have a half of an onion that I'm going to add to the side with the meat. Or maybe a little less, because that looks good enough to me. Now I've got an au jus gravy mix that I am going to add to the meat. And I added about half of the packet of water. And I'm just going to drizzle some on there. Maybe I won't use the whole half a packet. No, not really. I'm going to do some twisting and some turning. I'm going to add a little bit of salt. I know that the gravy probably has a lot of salt in it, but we like salt, so just skip that if you don't want it to be as salty as we do. And some black pepper. Now I have a stick of butter that I have cut up, and I'm just going to divide that over the meat and the potatoes. And of course, if you want your potatoes to taste like the meat, you could always just skip separating them, but I'm just wanting my potatoes to be buttery and garlicky and not beefy. And just some more salt on those potatoes. Now I'm just going to close the lid and I am off to work. Okay, it is now 6:44. Had a lot to do today after work, but dinner has been on warm. Let's get plated up. This one's gonna be easy. I just have some ground beef, a half of a chopped up onion, and some taco seasoning. In my crock pot, I'm just going to put it on high for about 4 hours and close the lid. Forget about it. All right, I have only had this on a couple of hours. It's only 9:17 a.m. and this meat is like really cooking up fast. So I'm just going to use my meat tool and get it all chopped up. Let it finish a little longer, and then I will just turn it down to warm, because obviously we are not going to be eating for a while. It smells so good. I was just outside with the chickens, and I came in and the house is so warm. It is freezing cold out, so I was getting some plastic up on the run. And surprise, we got our first egg today from one of our little ladies. So I'm super excited. We'll be having fresh eggs in the house, so it's always a little bonus. So super excited. Never had chickens before, but I've only had fresh chicken eggs a couple times here and there when I bought them off of friends, but now I'll be able to just go get them right in the backyard. Anyway, nothing better than coming in from working outside in the cold to hot food in the crock pot. So I'm getting ready to assemble my burritos. I've got a pan that I have buttered. I've got some tortillas that I discovered upon taking them out of the fridge were not sealed shut, so they are hard on the edge. So we're going to salvage them. So one thing that is super annoying, but I'm sure that it happens in every household, because, you know, kids. So I'm just cutting the hard edge off, and we're going to use the rest of the tortilla still. There we go. Chicken food. Since I made our meat in the crock pot, oops, let's get it over here. There is a lot of like grease in the bottom of the pot, so I'm using a spoon that has holes in it. And that's going to make cleaning up really easy because I have a liner in my pot. I'm just going to throw it out at the end. So I have my meat mixture, which has onions in it. I'm just going to add some cheese on my oddly shaped tortillas. Let's see what's going to work here. We'll just do it like this. Tuck and roll. Just like jumping out of a moving vehicle. Just kidding. Don't do that. You know, I've never done that. I'm going to squish them in there really tight. I want one more to fit in here, so I'm gonna make it fit one way or another. And I've got like a spoonful or two of this meat and onion mixture, so we're just gonna put it on top. Nobody around here is going to complain that there's too much meat. The next thing that I'm doing, and it's very sunny right now, the sun is out. It's been freezing all day, but it's sunny, and it's shining in my window and kind of making everything look kind of weird. But I took some of the beef drippings out of the crock pot before I discarded the rest, and I'm heating that up in a pan right now. And I'm just going to, oh, there's a shadow. Just sprinkle in just a little bit more taco seasoning. And I'm just going to make like a gravy to go over the burritos so that they're wet burritos. And I know this is totally not authentic Mexican food, but it's how we're doing it today. And it does taste really good, so. So I'm sprinkling some flour so that I can get that thickened up, because every good gravy starts with grease and flour, right? Just want to keep it moving. And I am mixing up some of this tomato bouillon. I always say that, don't I? Anyway, in my little mason jar here, because we need some liquid when it's time to thicken that up. And I'm just going to do that part very gradually. And for my little pan of burritos, I'm not going to need very much gravy on it. And I'm just going to take my fork and scoop a little bit of tomato paste in here. Not sure where I picked a fork up from, but I have a fork. I'm just going to give that a taste. It was very hot. It tastes really good. Very tomatoey. So, I mean, if you want a more like beefy flavor, then just use beef broth. But, you know, I like tomatoes a lot. So, it's perfect. I think I will just add a smidge more of the taco seasoning though, because I think the guys will like it better. And I want to make sure I get that all mixed in. Okay, now coming back over to our casserole, I'm just going to start spooning it over each of the burritos. And every time we make something like this, we're always like, why don't we make that more often? It was pretty easy. And it really was super easy, especially making the meat in the crock pot with a liner, because I'm telling you, I've already cleaned that crock pot. It was very simple just to wash it out real quick. Just toss the bag, wash the lid, and wash the insert, and you're done. So now we're just going to get some cheese on this and then pop it in the oven. One last thing before they go in the oven, I just want to top everything with some jalapenos. So this is going to go in the oven now. I have it set on 375 because basically everything is cooked. We just want to get those tortillas warmed up, melt the cheese. I want those to be a little wilted and softened up, and then it'll be perfect. Okay, here are those burritos out of the oven. They smell so good. Beyond good. Let's see if I can get them out of the pan and onto the plate. Would you look at that? I am making meatloaf. I always just mix my meat in the pan that I am going to cook it in. So I am getting 2 eggs in there because this is going to be a big meatloaf. There's probably 2 pounds of meat in there. And I'm using a package of beefy onion soup mix. Gonna pour in a little bit of panko. I normally use just regularly seasoned breadcrumbs, but I don't have any right now. So panko it is, a little bit of milk. And some black pepper all over. And I'm just going to add some garlic powder all around. And use my hands to mix it all up. All right, so I am just getting all the ingredients mixed together, but I'm not going to handle this meat too much because you don't want to, it just doesn't turn out good if you over handle it, so don't go crazy on it. Just get it mixed. I like to take my finger and go around the edges and just get some of the stuff that's sticking there. I don't bother to grease the pan because meatloaf makes so much grease that it's not going to stick. I mean, I don't usually have that issue anyway. I had a little mountain going on in the middle, and I want to make sure that it's flattened down. All right, I'm going to get that in the oven now. Well, I don't know if I have ever seen red skin potatoes this size. These are huge. Okay, well, I'm going to get those cleaned up and chopped up into bite-sized pieces for red skin mashed potatoes. I've taken the meatloaf, sorry, I always talk with my fingers, taken the meatloaf, out of the oven, and there is so much grease here in the pan. I'm going to drain that off, and then we're going to top this meatloaf with cream of mushroom soup and put it back in the oven. And I have my potatoes on the stove right now, so those should be done and ready to mash once I get everything on the meatloaf and get it fully cooked. I'm using Campbell's cream of mushroom, but if you make your own, go ahead and use that, whatever you prefer. I prefer not to make my own, just because, you know, if you've been here before, you know, I take a lot of simple steps. Just for the sake of saving time, saving energy. And whatever you do is perfectly fine. And I made sure that I filled in all of those cracks from where I poured off the grease so that the soup can liquefy and we'll have a lot of, you know, air quotes, gravy to put on our potatoes as well. So I'm going to just put it back in the oven until my mashed potatoes are ready to mash. I have a can of green beans and some butter and some garlic powder going on here on the back burner. I'm going to drop in a cube of butter and let that get melted. I'm going to use the last bit of our milk. So I'm going to pour that in because the eye of the stove is still warm, so it's going to heat that milk up. Next, I'm going to do a little spice dump. I just have some garlic powder, some salt and pepper. And I have this garden vegetable cream cheese spread that I used in another recipe. So we're just going to use that up and get it out of the fridge. Oh, and I just love the flavor of that sour cream. It's so good. Right, that meatloaf is bubbling hot. I just took it out of the oven. Everything is ready to serve. And here is meatloaf dinner. I added a little bit of parsley because this is one of those meals that kind of always looks the same. Like the meatloaf and the potatoes kind of blend together, and then it kind of blends in with the plate, but anyway, this is basically the only way that my husband likes meatloaf is with the mushroom soup on it. It is so comforting. It's so early. It is only 7 a.m., but it's Friday. And I want to get dinner started in my Crockpot. I pulled out some boneless, skinless chicken breast from the freezer. And I just added some frozen peas and carrots. Also, just kind of like a remnant from the freezer. I've been wanting Mississippi something all week. And then I also kind of woke up in the middle of the night thinking about homemade chicken noodle soup. So why not make Mississippi chicken noodle soup? Anyone else do that? Just wake up randomly at night thinking about what you're going to make for dinner? I also know it's Friday, and this would be one of those days where I would come home and not want to cook because it's the end of the week. It'd be very tempting to go out to eat or get takeout, and it would most likely be fast food, which I just am not enjoying these days. So figured let's get it started early, and that way dinner is already done and it's something that I want. So I'm adding a half of a medium-sized onion. I can only see out of one eye right now, so bear with me. Now I'm adding some chopped up garlic. I just used 2 pieces. And I have been buying these already peeled in a package like so, which makes it so easy. Now I'm adding some ranch seasoning. Sorry, it is only like 7 a.m. and I just woke up. So talking is kind of hard right now. And then the au jus. And because this is soup, I'm going to add about 2 cups of water to begin. But I made a mistake just now. Instead of mixing up my chicken broth, I just added water. And so I'm just going to add some chicken bouillon base. And 2 more cups of water. There we go. I'm going to drizzle in some of the juice from, I'm using banana peppers. People do use pepperoncinis. And I'm going to place some of those banana pepper rings right on top. Not a whole lot. I do not want them to be overpowering. And for the last step, I'm adding some butter. So I've made Mississippi roast before and it called for a whole stick of butter and I thought it was just way too much, so I have cut up about a half a stick here. And that's it for now. I'm just going to close the lid, and when I get home from work later I will add noodles. I'm home from work. Let's see what we have going on in this crock pot. All right, yep, our chicken is ready to shred. Broth is looking good. This is literally just falling apart very easily. Well, as you can see by the white ring around the pan, I turned my water on, went out in the living room and sat down and let my water just boil away. Not all of it, but all I'm going to do is take some fettuccine and break it into smaller pieces. The water's really hot, steam. I'm going to toss it in like that. This is harder to do than I thought with the incision on my hand. It's those little things that get you. So maybe in an hour or so I'll have this pasta broken into bite-sized pieces. So my husband, who doesn't like Mississippi anything, tasted the chicken soup and broth and was really digging it, so must be good. Now that the fettuccine is al dente, I'm going to just scoop it out of the water and put it right in the crock pot. All right, that is a lot of noodles. I made some biscuits to go along with our soup, and I went back and forth over whether to make cornbread or what, but these are just some frozen biscuits from the freezer section at the grocery store. Sort of like the Pillsbury brand. These are just the great value though, and they're just as good. So I'm just going to rub a little butter on top of each biscuit. I usually just throw these in the air fryer and make them. It only takes a few minutes. Okay, I am ready to dish up a bowl of this yummy looking soup. I have my biscuit ready on standby. I'm gonna lose a noodle. Get in there. Make sure I get some of that delicious broth. Enough of that chicken. Oh, that is so good. All of the flavors of Mississippi chicken or Mississippi pot roast in a bowl of soup. I just can't stop dipping.